role of the youth, I've talked about it. A lot of violence against women. Natasha Akpoti in cordoned off completely. Um, Violence. Somebody was attacked by a political party, got herself cleaned up, bandaged, came back to vote. The level of desperation of people to vote is unprecedented. Up till now, I'm getting reports that people have been there since yesterday. They are still there. None of them brushed their teeth. Nobody took his bath. They are there waiting for collation of results. So let me stop there for now.
Okay, Dr. Abdullahi, let me have your own impression about how the whole thing
Yeah, I think I would like to start by really commending the authorities, specifically INEC, the conduct of the election, and also the conduct or professional intervention of the security agencies in full. We must have to commend that effort. For the first time in the history of this country, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we are coming to an era where election is becoming the reality based on the expectation of the majority of the citizens. But most importantly, we had a lot of hitches here and there, which in a sum total could not, to me, based on experience, amount to a total sham on the integrity of the election, considering reports from both domestic and international observers who really supervise the process. And of course, when compared to our antecedents as a democratic entity and the third largest democracy in the world after United States, India, and United States. And I think, to me, I would like to really score the process high in spite of the observable hitches.
Okay, I'd like to have your views on what you think was responsible for the level of enthusiasm, determination, excitement, and patience on the part of Nigerians yesterday in the rain, in the sun, I mean, even in the night. People stood, they were still voting and all of that. What we've never seen that kind of
Let me jump in here.
enthusiasm. All right, jump in.
Let me jump in. Uh, the the signs are too many. The first is that people have suffered too much. And look at the exchange rate of the dollar to the naira, 750, from about 150 in the 2000s, the early 2000s. The price of rice, 40,000 from 8,000. Um, Fuel is scarce and too expensive. Uh, Electricity bill is up. People can have. Then even when you get into the market and take your money, it's almost impossible to buy anything affordable. Went to the market a few days ago. The vegetable I got was yellow. I mean, that is not vegetable. It's not good for human consumption, but that was the best in the market. So even with your money, you can't get anything. Then, a prelude to this election, you have your money in the bank. You're told to deposit everything you had. Now, for the first time as an adult, 2 weeks ago, I didn't have a cover on me. For 2 weeks. I think at 65, I'll be wondering. In my lifetime, I've never seen a country like this. And therefore, people were ready to sacrifice anything for that day to make sure that they put in whoever they felt would right the wrongs.
Okay, Dr. Abdullahi.
Yeah, I think I will take a little slight, position to that. Some of the key factors responsible for uh, the new rise in youth
Even on the part
participation.
of the youth, yeah,
Yeah,
come to
youth
that.
participation. I think this is a new dawn, and of course, with the improvements in the electoral guidelines and laws, with also the hope and the commitment on this part of INEC and the resolute determination of the government and other security agencies in for the first time, let us give our country, what we call a new face, in a renewed hope, and of course, the neutrality with which several stakeholders have approached the process has really given, that boost to the not only youth but to Nigerians who have hitherto been, consumed on the umbrella of, apathy and also lack of interest to vote simply because of the what they perceive as somehow many of the anti-people policies of the government over the years, to the rising profile of poverty in this country, to the politics of rising expectation, which is also descending into frustration upon the people, and then the high profile of unemployment and failure of the government to really do something or commit a lot of resources into education, which is key, and also healthcare to maintain the health of the nation and also the consciousness of the nation. Because by the time education and health are no longer of any significant priorities to any government, you find frustration all over, and you won't be able to maintain the human resources you have. Because any human resources, no matter how large the population, as long as it is not educated or it is not given the deserving propensity of consciousness in terms of education it deserves, and also the health care maintenance is poor, that society is going to is going to be a crippled society. And of course we can see today with the profile of unemployment on the side of the youth, so that excruciating impact of several of what many of the youth would be saying vegetable and potato form of governance and policies that are impacting on them. So that has woken a lot of this youth from the slumber, and now there is this renewed national consciousness, which I have the hope and the belief that Nigerian people, specifically the youth, men and women, will come to take their destinies into their hands and possibly do what.
From the reports that we got, not only the youth went out, even women and the elderly were out there to cast their ballots. But then let's talk about the preparedness of the umpire for yesterday's election. In one of the reports we received yesterday, INEC officials arrived some polling units, with incomplete materials, like the case of Mowa playground, polling units under Obiakpo local governments, in River State, where INEC officials, brought ballot papers for only Senate and House of Representatives, omitting the presidential paper. What would have been the reason behind this solution? Apart from that, um, there were reports of late commencement of accreditation and voting in some parts of the country.
I think to be fair on the side of INEC, and we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, should also give kudos to INEC, considering the facts of our realities, because the Nigerian domestic realities have to be considered in terms of, the processes of conducting a credible election. We have a country with a difficult geographical terrain, in which, in terms of delivery of these sensitive materials, and based on the tradition of INEC, delivery of sensitive materials are done at the late hour, because when you deliver them, earlier, there are the tendencies of being disrupted, being stolen, being distorted, and what have you, by certain, unguided and unruly element within our country. And of course, the late delivery of some of those materials, usually everywhere in the world, such type of challenges are bound to happen. But the degree, uh, you know, varies from one society to another, considering what happens in the United States. But take the largest democracy in the world, for example, India. India also experienced similar, even much more problems or challenges with the delivery of sensitive material because of the terrain and also the failure of development to reach the grassroots. Because in Nigeria, you can see that the democracy only hangs with the presidential and governorship election, with their national and state assemblies only. When we look at the grassroots where majority of the people of this country live, to me, I don't see democracy at the grassroots level because of the absence of autonomy of local governments. And governors everywhere, you see people at the grassroots are used to the tradition of losing the right of determining and choosing what suits them democratically. Governors sit down in their various government houses, collaborate with their SIAC, the state's independent, not even in the state dependent. There's nothing like state independent electoral commission. There are state dependent electoral commissions who are subject to the caprices of the governors, and of course declare what they want. If you see a party winning the governorship of a particular state, at the local level, the people have lost totally the right to determine under whichever platform the people they want to be represented by. And of course, that system has been hijacked. So this is one of the key challenges there. Secondly, putting this geographical factor and logistical factors, which also slow the pace of delivery of sensitive materials at the required destination. And finally, on the second phase, which is delivering the INEC sensitive material like the ballot papers. We have seen situations whereby we have insufficient ballot papers at some polling units across close to 11 states. People have complained. And secondly, there are internal, we have observed based on intelligence report and information we got, internal sabotage even within INEC. And there has never, I have not seen situations where INEC officials are being disciplined. You send them to court. Those that are responsible should either be reprimanded or be sacked or be meted with appropriate sanctions. And the National Assembly should also take this into consideration while designing or amending any electoral guidelines in respect to any impending elections in Nigeria. Because how can you convince me after we have approved the the write-ups or what are to be the inscriptions on the ballot papers on a computer system, and then we issue this contract to certain companies, and of course the companies printed these sensitive materials and returned them to us. We have not checked them, we have not supervised them, we just delivered them based on the expectation that we have the hope on the company, and we've not sanctioned anybody for doing that. Who must have been responsible for expunging the logos of certain parties?
ITO to choose their own leaders, because you just said have that right.
Yeah, number one.
No. Let me come to Dr. Kusa. Still talking about INEC's preparedness.
Yes.
In terms of logistics, INEC has always engaged the services of the National Union of Road Transport Workers for transportation of this. But then some people have suggested that they could engage the services of private transport companies, also relate on the promises, to deliver on the assignments.
Okay. And on target. I believe project management is key. We need professionals who are thoroughbred project managers forming a department within INEC. I repeat this, project management is compulsory. It has to be taken more seriously in INEC, and there should be a whole department with a competent head with lower cadres of project managers who would look at the distribution process, the whole of the INEC delivery system from start to finish at every stage. There should be timelines for each. That is what is missing. Number two, apart from having sections for project management, the second is there should be, under that project management, at the terrain of Nigeria and looking at the difficulties in places like Bayelsa, the riverine areas, where the terrain is so difficult, you cannot move. And lastly, level of corruption in our milieu makes it impossible for these materials to be delivered much earlier. Lastly, some were vandalized in locations before time. So while we're criticizing INEC, I sympathize with INEC because the problems are enormous and we should improve with every election. Not very good to learn from your experience. But in electoral matters, is a difficult job. Therefore, we learn from this. Take project management more seriously. I believe we will get it better if we do a department.
Like to inform our listeners that they can follow us on a live stream on Nigeria Network and on Facebook at /Radio Nigeria. Live stream on YouTube, Nigeria Network, and on Facebook at /. Yes, we have a report to take, but then I did say that I'll be coming back to you, Dr. Abdullahi. Just maybe in a minute, the people actually win back their right, to choose and who they want to.
Yeah, as we can see, there is a prevailing selfishness across the country in terms of representation. Grassroots people are only given the opportunity to select only the governors, the president, governors, and maybe the legislators only. But in terms of giving them the right expression to their right of franchise, we denied them. And majority of the people of this country, if you check the topography of the map of this country, you know that majority of the people of this country do not reside in the 36 states. They reside in the local government. They are the majority, but they are caged by the selfishness of a tiny minority who orchestrated a particular clause or certain clauses in the constitution to keep them in bondage. And of course, today, one of the solutions is to autonomize the local governance. And of course, when we talk of autonomy of local government, we talk of political, economic, and financial freedom so that they get their resources directly. They also operate because the local government chairman is the representative of the president or is the president of Nigerians at the local government level. But he does not enjoy the paraphernalia of office as specified by the law. How could he be? Most of the local government chairmen across the 774 local government of this country are errand boys of the governors. And of course, the majority of the people are caged out there. I'm talking from experience because I have worked at these levels. So unless this is done,
Okay.
otherwise, there is no way democracy can be called a full-fledged system of governance in Nigeria without giving the grassroots people the opportunity
They have some
window
kind
of
of
expression. And
serious
finally, based on the recommendation of Waste Committee on Electoral Reforms in Nigeria under the Yaradua's government, recommended that INEC, not SIAC, not the dependent state governors caged electoral bodies, not them. INEC, we can see today, we are commending INEC for having, to some extent, more than average, marks in terms of the conduct of the election. And of course, we really commended the whole preparation.
Okay.
So by the time INEC is the one that conducts election at the grassroots for local government, if we are having a presidential election and governorship election, we should also be having a day slate for local government election, not governors doing it at their whims, at their wheels.
Okay. So for you, political, economic, and financial
Yes,
is the way out.
absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Kusa.
Yes, I'm a political scientist. I'm a political economist. and I know that in 1976 local government reforms, for the very first time, that allocation was being given directly to local governments, and they performed well then. Something happened. It was obliterated along the line. Since then, local governments have been suffering under the tyrannical stamp of governors that has stifled their development, although corruption is at every level. Again, there's a demarcation between elite politicians and grassroots politicians. Elite politicians are in the city. They understand the nomenclature and the stylistics of their emergence in the political space. The grassroots politicians don't have that kind of sophistication. They just want the good life for their people. I'm not saying there's no, there also. And therefore, the modus operandi of both sets of politicians is quite different because money plays a higher role for the elite politician than for the grassroots politician. And the people have more confidence. The people at the grassroots have more confidence in their grassroots politicians. Let me leave it at that. But there's a demarcation. They're all supposed to be serving the people, but they serve the people from different angles.
So what you've said, you also agree.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
this entire exercise is part of the process of selecting democratic leaders, and therefore, in this special report, Emmanuel Gwaza takes us through the journey of Nigeria's uninterrupted democracy.
The current democratic experience being witnessed in the country was launched in 1999 when the military, under the headship of General Abdullahi Abubakar, midwifed the general elections, which ushered in a new set of political leaders, including the president, National Assembly members, governors, as well as those at the state assemblies. Between 1999 and now, Nigeria has held 6 successful general elections, with the present exercise making it 7, which is also expected to be conducted under a peaceful atmosphere. From 1999 to 2019, the battle was fought by 2 main political parties, PDP and the then ANPP, as well as AC, which metamorphosed into the All Progressives Congress, APC. During the 1999 general polls, the People's Democratic Party won the presidency and majority of other positions across the country and held sway for 16 years before the APC clinched power in 2015 and has remained in control till date. In these 2023 polls, the scope of the battle has expanded with 2 political parties, Labour and New Nigeria's People's Party, which have stamped their feet on the battlefield as third and fourth forces. What does this development portend for Nigeria's democracy? A diplomatic historian and senior lecturer in the Department of History, Benue State University, Makurdi, Dr. Chris Ongu, described it as an improvement in the nation's democratic journey. Dr. Ongu, however, expressed concern about ideologies of the political parties.
Political parties are run in a manner that reflects ethnic nationalism to the extent that the nationalistic and patriotic component of a democratic system is completely lacking in our political calculation. And so we lack the strategic approach to be able to establish the dividends of democracy within the period that we have claimed to be experiencing democracy.
A commentator on public issues, Mr. Martins Agbe, who spoke in the same light, observed that most politicians do not follow their manifestos when elected, saying that such was responsible for the gaps noticed in government.
These things require political education, which the national orientation should be out to do. Those of us who are voters, I think we have a duty too. If we want a way forward, I think we should go for people who really know where they are going.
One of the basic expectations from democratic governance is the provision of dividends for the people. How far has Nigeria fared in this regard? Professor John Enyi, a retired lecturer and political consultant, observed that much has been achieved, but there was a need for
know where we aim to be, but we'll surely get there.
My mind is to vote, and I encourage you, everybody, to come out and vote. We prepare well. We prepare for our heart and we prepare for prayer.
With the enthusiasm demonstrated by the people, there are hopes that the next democratic experience will usher in a new Nigeria for the good of all to justify the true essence of democracy. From Makurdi, Emmanuel Guaza, Radio Nigeria.
Right, that was Emmanuel Gwaza on Nigeria's uninterrupted journey. And before I take your reactions, though, I think I have another report, of them together. An issue that was much talked about in the preparations of for this 2023 election, the readiness of security operatives. In this report, Emmanuel Ejim, examines to ensure security of lives and property before, during, and even after the elections. Okay. We'll come back. I will go back to that report. Let me come back to you now. You've heard the journey of Nigeria, uninterrupted journey, democratic journey. So, what do you have to say?
I would first of all mention the two new forces, the third and the fourth force, NNPP and LP. They are disruptors of the status quo, and is probably beautiful in the eyes of the electorate, especially the youth. And the precursor of this enthusiasm is an NSAS protest. It was a call to national consciousness by the youth of this nation, which had never happened before. In the end, they did not get what they wanted. That the force they did not want should be out.
I'm not sure that is totally correct, because SARS was disbanded, and of course, some people that believed abuses from the police got justice. Some of them paid some good sums of money.
I said they may not have gotten all
everything.
Okay. Please listen to me attentively.
I am.
Yes. They may not have gotten we are all aware that there was a panel set up. They got some things, but they did not get everything they wanted. And I believe that, okay, we'll talk through our votes. That is part of the enthusiasm. Then the second thing is ethnic nationalism in political parties. You will look at the four major ones. There are ethnic sentiments in each one. And hunger does not know ethnicity. When you're hungry, you don't remember whether you're Yoruba or Lupe or whatever. You are just hungry and you want to feed. People have come to the realization that it's not enough for me to be sentimental about my ethnicity. I need dividends of democracy for human security to be in my milieu. What do I mean by human security? It's beyond perimeter fencing. Human security is when I can sleep with my two eyes open. Human security is when I can send my children to school without breaking the bank. Human security is when I can have health care without emptying my pockets. There is social security in old age. And that is why some steal the kitty blind when they're in service, because there's no social security. I'm not saying that's correct, but they look at what is ahead and there is nothing. So the ethnic nationalism, it looks like maybe henceforth, maybe watered down, because people have suffered so much and they know that ethnicity will not solve their problem. And then the dominance of some political parties is being checkmated now. And some said the heavy rain in Abuja during the election yesterday was saying that there's a new dawn. All those are freebies, but may not be. Some even said they saw a map of Nigeria in the clouds when it was coming. And there was a snapshot.
Of that.
Don't dismiss it. There was a snap because the Virgin Mary comes, they see it. There was a snapshot, and I got it on my phone. It looked like Nigeria. I'm not saying that is it. That's on the lighter
Yeah,
note, but we are seeing a new beginning, and it might dovetail into political parties coalescing with civil society for the future. Let's see it pan out.
So for you, the third and fourth, force that marriage, you understand, has changed the trajectory, of let's say politics now
Has affected.
has affected. Okay, Dr. Abdullahi.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to look at the report by Emmanuel Guazo. I was able to look at, three fundamental uh, string of discussion. One has to do with the missing link in the thought force proposal politically, as we can see from what he read in our history, not only from 1999, not only from 1999 to date, we have seen significant improvement in the development of our democracy. But of course, what we see today, the dawn of the new dawn, yeah, what we see today, like the metamorphosis, which is leading to the emergence of the thought force. But my concern is about the missing link in the whole, agenda push for a new Nigeria.
When you say the missing
The
link,
missing link,
Right.
like the failure in the strategy to be able to at least design the agenda for the thought force, for example. New political parties have emerged in the terrain and, of course, have registered their footprints. Whether we like it or not, we have seen the performances of Labour and NMPP. There were, prior to the election, efforts horizontally and vertically to streamline their thought and vision, and of course, the consolidation of the third force movement. But unfortunately, that effort was thwarted, and the election really, came in. So that was the missing link, because if there is a robust arrangement which, combine the two parties, because in Nigeria, for you to be able to demolish the hard shell of the political elite who have remained within the vicious cycle and, of course, taking Nigeria hostage for a very long time. Demolition that structure is very, very difficult, and it requires what we call grand political alliance. And this is missing in the arrangement. And of course, even though I wish them well, but I still believe that more needs to be done in order to demolish the Berlin Wall separating young people and Nigerians from that vicious.
No, seriously, there shouldn't be a third and fourth force. There should just be one third force.
Yeah.
That will face the status quo.
you agree with
Absolutely.
him?
Let's move.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now, an issue that was
Much talked about in the preparation itself for the 2023 elections was that of the readiness of security operatives. In this report, Emmanuel Eugene examines the efforts of stakeholders to ensure security of lives and property before, during, and even after the elections.
Section 13, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, states that the security and welfare of the citizenry shall be the primary responsibility of government. It is in the discharge of this constitutional duty that the Buhari administration has taken several measures to improve the security situation before the election. Election security is an integral part of an electoral process, especially in a society like Nigeria. It refers to the protection of electoral materials, personnel, and infrastructure from attack or threats like tampering with the voting machines or voters' registration database. An election security expert, Malan Kabir Usman, said security was an important component in the conduct of a successful, free, fair, and credible election the world over, especially in Nigerian context.
It is an integral part of the election because of the nature of our society. The issue of electoral violence is still very much in our country where people are desperate to win elections at all costs. Some even go to the extent of frustrating election in their own parts so that the results somehow will be affected, either in their favor or to frustrate the winning party or the winning person and so on. And of course, based on the provisions of the Electoral Act, it spells clearly the role of security apparatus in every election in Nigeria. However, if an election is over militarized, whereby you have too many armed personnel all over the place, that has the possibility of scaring voters to vote freely.
Malan Usman urged security authorities to ensure that the welfare of the operatives on election duties were properly taken care of during and after the polls. Preparatory to this election, the National Security Advisor, retired Major General Babagana Mongono, warned security operatives against any misconduct during the nationwide polls. General Mongono equally urged security personnel to execute their mandate in a responsible manner to demonstrate democratic values and professional ethics.
The armed forces, police, and other security agencies will work as a team and deliver a knowledge-driven, citizen-friendly, professionally led, and rule of law guided election security operation. This will produce an electoral outcome credible enough to strengthen the faith of all Nigerians and indeed the international community.
The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, at the Interagency Consultative Forum for Election Security, stressed the Commission's readiness to effectively collaborate with security agencies for the success of the general election. Professor Yakubu explained that the electoral materials for the election had special security features that would forestall electoral malpractices with assurance that every vote must count.
We are looking forward to a collaborative relationship with the security agencies that will ensure that processes are protected, the right of voters to vote freely is safeguarded, access for observers and the media guaranteed, the election transparent, and the outcome reflects the faith of the people.
The Nigerian police force, in an effort to secure the electorate, put in place strategic operational plans to ensure free, fair, and credible election across the nation. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali Baba, said 310,000 police operatives with senior police officers from the ranks of DIG, AIG, CPs, and ACPs have been saddled with the responsibility of overseeing the implementation of the operation orders.
Must ensure that Nigerians are allowed to come out and exercise their franchise or vote the leaders of their choice. And for that, we must create conducive environment for Nigerians to exercise their right.
On his part, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, reassured citizens of their safety during and after the elections, even in the troubled zones in the country.
I'd like to use this opportunity to assure Nigerians that on the security front, we are good to go on all fronts. I do not need to tell you how we will do it. All I'm telling you is that we will do it and everyone will have the liberty to exercise their franchise. This is part of the assessment we've done, and we've made contingencies to address those peculiar areas.
General Irabo warned all thugs and perpetrators of evils to desist or face consequences of their actions. As part of its contribution to the security of the electoral process, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, deployed over 100,000 personnel and sniffer dogs for election duty nationwide. The Commandant General of the NSCDC, Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Audi, said the Corps, as a critical stakeholder in election security, would ensure that personnel were properly guided before being deployed for physical security provision at the polling unit during and after the election across the Federation. The Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, is mobilizing and deploying over 10,000 personnel for effective traffic management and vehicular movement during the election across the nation. The Department of State Services, DSS, has equally deployed an unspecified numbers of personnel across the Federation to ensure a history election and urge citizens participating in the electoral process to abide by the laid-down procedures for peaceful polls.
Shun violence and, of course, all divisive tendencies and anything that will affect negatively the elections. These have always been our position and preaching, and we won't get tired saying that. Don't think there is an overdose of talking peace. For us in the DSS, we want every person to be peaceful and law-abiding.
On its part, the Police Service Commission deployed over 360 officers of the Commission across the 36 states of the Federation to monitor the conduct of police personnel on election duties. The acting chairman of the Commission, retired Justice of Supreme Court Clara Ogumbi, warned that the Commission would sanction any erring police officer engaged in any form of misconduct before, during, and after the election. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC, anti-graft agencies of the federal government, equally deployed operatives across the 774 local government areas of the Federation to monitor vote buying. Election security experts were of the consensus that as a general elections to elect a new leadership to run the affairs of the country, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, should do everything possible to get the exercise right better than previous elections for the sake of the nation's democratic advancement as well as economic development of the country. In Abuja, Emmanuel, EG Radio Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that report on efforts of stakeholders, to ensure security of lives and property before, during, and after the elections. And now, there were reported cases of attacks on INEC officials, voters, and voting materials in some polling stations. For instance, Mapolipu, in Lagos State, and of course, the Beavers machine, were also stolen. You understand, in Delta, and I think there's 6 of them, but eventually INEC was able to retrieve about 3 of them. 3 are still missing. How would you assess the level of security arrangement, in yesterday's election?
For me, speaking as an expert in that context, I believe I will have to commend all the security forces that participated in ensuring that we have a hitch-free elections. That their performances were really commendable, due to the fact that there was a highly strategic and robust intelligence-driven operations, which has really reduced the propensity of the outbreak of violence and also intervention of miscreants in trying to disrupt the election, courtesy of perhaps the support of their various parties moved by the emotional desperations and the fact that some of them have no clear signal of where and how do we navigate this country into the promised land. And of course, the arrangement from the side of police, the DSS, the EFCC, custom, immigration, the 17 sister institutions really did the best. And in history, this is the first time there is a robust, well coordinated operations and intervention which has really sent a signal of strategic deterrence to troublemakers who have this tendency of disrupting the election, because violence and electoral a kind of rigging and other things were really significantly reduced by the deliberate policies shaped by the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, like the financial policy intervention, which preempted cash from flowing the way it should or normally. Nigerians are used to the culture of money politics. Vote buying has been significantly reduced in spite of the hues and crises here and there by citizens of their inability to have access to cash. The politicians too felt excruciating impact of the policy by not having access to the required financial logistics needed to change the mindset of the citizens from voting what they should or what they ought to do to voting what money has conditioned their psyche to do. And at the end of the day, we collectively suffer for it. And I think that effort or that strategic planning by security agencies, their intervention and operations, highly commendable. I have spoken to friends. I've seen, write-ups across the world of commendation with the way and manner in which the security forces conducted themselves. This is the first time I have seen excellent professional intervention. Like in Lagos, Kano, and other places. You see the way the police behaved as if they were angels coming from heaven. For the first time, police and military became too civil by, creating the rapport. Check the case of Bielsa, Lagos, and Kano, where the security agencies and the people and the voters, in some cases of observable incidences of violence and attempted rigging and snatching of ballot boxes and the beavers machine, they had to come together, discuss instead of putting the language people usually understand, the language of bullets and grenades. It didn't happen. There were verbal engagements. There were deliberations, negotiations in a milieu of ADR sort of arrangement, which has credibly increased their professional competence in terms of their civil engagement. And of course, the citizens really love it in Bielsa. A protest later turned into jubilation and support for the security forces, and that synergy and rapprochement became something new to the people, and people began to realize that security are our friends. They are not enemies of this country. They are not our enemies. When they discussed, protests started. The commissioner of police came, the commandant of the military, whatever came, civil defense, everybody was there. And these people decided, oh, let us engage these young people protesting. And what was the problem? Insufficient ballot papers, and of course, the missing logo and other things. Now, also the fear. People need to have that emotional stability while joining the queues to form opinion, because voting, there's difference between campaign behavior and voting behavior. Campaign behavior is the behavior of the crowd you see politicians pulling before election. Voting behavior sometimes are even formed either from the residences of people or even while they are at the polling unit. They decide to feel, having studied the way this campaign went through, which of the candidates will perhaps deliver the expectations of Nigerians. I will form an opinion, or the person forms an opinion to vote for that candidate, and then you meet, if the political education given by the parties are not sufficient. While in the line you meet friends and peers, and people now engage in certain strategic discussions which later affect the way people think and the way they will finally vote at the end of the day. And of course, we need to really, and I want to say, for the first time I have seen in my lifetime, that security people are having a robust, coordinated, and synergetic intervention, operations, and civil-minded approach to security and election.
All right, Dr. Kusa, the peaceful atmosphere that characterized the entire exercise, in the southeast, particularly in Imo, Anambra, and Enugu, was shocking to most Nigerians. What do you say to that?
Effective logistics through synergistic rapprochement amongst the security forces. And if you had 310,000 policemen on ground, the training of a police officer is very different from the training of a military, of a soldier. The latter is trained to shoot and kill. The other is trained in civil duties and so forth. So the synergy between these two during the election was really commendable. We didn't hear of any soldier shooting at any voter. Then there was the case of a lady who was attacked, wounded, probably in the eye area, went home, got first aid, had the audacity to come back to vote. It means there was some protection in that place. Because if there was no protection, she would be afraid.
Absolutely.
Yes. So then the call for reinforcement, and the the lady was bold enough to come back. Usually before, people would go away and never come back. So we see some emerging trends now. The determination, because they believe that their votes will count. Before, politicians never needed to buy votes because the votes were not important. They would just go to a room and write the results. But now that they know that the votes are important, they want to buy. It was advancement. This election has triple advancement in the sense that you don't even have the money to buy, even if you wanted to buy. I was angry I didn't have money in my pocket, but I was happy that the politicians did not have money to do vote buying. So the willing buyers and the sellers could not. There was a lady, for example, I don't remember which state. She was caught with 18 voters' cards.
Kaduna State.
Kaduna State. She was caught with 18 voters and a list of persons to whom she would transfer money. She was nabbed. She must be singing like a canary now because the collaborators would have been mentioned. So the fact that cash was not readily available, even when the 200 was brought back, if you're going to have millions in 200, you will need buildings. Or Ghana must go to put them. So it would expose them. So it was a beautiful thing. I didn't like the fact that cashless by force by fire. Cashless by force by fire. I didn't like it. Most of us did not like it. But I'm smiling now because I'm seeing the effect on the electoral process. It's beautiful in my eyes. It's beautiful in my eyes. I love it. It's nice. Then the fact that paramilitary agencies like the NSCDC, ICPC, EFCC, and so on, immigration, they were on ground at my estate. I didn't mention which estate. They were on ground at my estate yesterday. I voted peacefully before 10 o'clock. I was back in my house by 9:30. So the collaboration was good. The atmosphere was convivial. You did not normally when you have the military in any place, they will be loud and they want to be noticed. No, they just stay quietly in the corner.
So we're getting there.
Yes, yeah. We are getting there. So people are no longer really afraid to go and vote. But we know that in Lagos, a particular political party said that you could not vote here if you are not voting so. That was not good enough. I don't know what happened here. There was an absence of security personnel, probably, because it couldn't have happened.
No, if the security agencies were there.
They were there. So why did that happen? That shouldn't have happened. But you see, we are making progress. That is the important thing with security agencies.
At least through that vote buying or trading, vote trading, I think, because that's encompasses buying and selling. Vote trading was reduced to the barest minimum during yesterday's election. So moving forward now, at the start of the program, we did tell our listeners that our correspondents are on standby to give us situation reports from different polling units across the nation. Now, I think it's time for us to go to the field to get first-hand information from our correspondents from across the country. Hello? Hello? Okay, we go back to that later on. Thuggery and ballot, still talking about security arrangements. Thuggery and the ballot box snatching, was reported in some areas. And there's a new level to that one now. That is the beavers machine snatching or theft, so to speak. This was the concern of some residents of Lafia in Nasarawa State, as reported by. Okay, I think I have a correspondent, Alambo Dantoye. Good morning, Alambo. Alambo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. So give us an update on of situation. where you are reporting from.
Okay, reporting from Bayelsa.
Okay.
Bayelsa is very calm this morning with the elections yesterday, but there will still be election this morning from 10 a.m. In about 104 polling units, 4 wards in Yenegua local government area of Bayelsa State. Some minutes ago, I went around town trying to see what preparation is like. I noticed the polling booths have not been set up, but I saw some security personnel walking to some of the polling units. So we are still waiting. We are waiting any moment from 10 that elections will be held in about 104 units in 4 wards of APA1, APA3, Bahrain 2, and Okodia. All these are located in Yenegua local government area because they could not vote yesterday due to some missing ballot papers. But I think INEC has given them another chance to vote following a protest yesterday by some prospective voters.
Okay, Alambo, I'd like you to generally review yesterday's election in Bayelsa State.
Okay, the elections did not start early. Materials arrived very, very late, very, very late. Starting with Yenegua, at 8:30, I was in some of the polling units. No sight of election materials or INEC ad hoc personnel to conduct the election. The same reports we got from our correspondents and reporters across the 8 local government areas of the state. The only exception being name-based, surprisingly, where elections started a bit earlier, at around 9 a.m. Other local government areas, election did not start. For example, areas such as Brass, election started about 1 and 2 p.m. in most of the polling units across the communities. For example, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources could not vote till about 5 p.m. Yesterday. The same thing in southern Niger and parts of Ekeremo. Now, this is a recurring decimal because these communities are located very far, deep, close to the Atlantic Ocean. And we've always asked INEC, what plans do you have to ensure that materials arrive these locations early? They always give us the assurance that everything has been put in place, logistics have been put in place to ensure that materials. But every election, you discover that this pattern keeps repeating itself. Southern Niger, Brass, and Ekeremo, because the terrain to go there is not easy. There are some communities in Southern Niger, by speedboat, you need to take about 4 hours to get to these locations. And these are the challenges. I don't know why they've not really found a way to solve this problem. I think INEC should look at Bayelsa as a peculiar case and solve this issue of getting materials to far-flung communities in the Atlantic Ocean. So apart from that, everything went on very well. Yes, there were pockets of disturbances as we had from Brass late last night. There was shooting. I understand from one of our reporters, one of the candidates is about briefing the press to assess the situation. And then other areas, the same thing. Some people could not really exercise their franchise as a result of this situation. But overall, the atmosphere is very peaceful, very calm. It's a wonderful Sunday morning, and there is a serenity in Yenegua and most parts of Bayelsa State.
Okay, as you've said, elections will be holding this morning in about 141 polling units, in Bayelsa State. And there was a press release to that effect from INEC. Could you expatiate more on that press release?
Yes, the head of voter education and publicity, Mr. Wilfred Ifoga, who signed the statement on behalf of the resident electoral commissioner, Dr. Emmanuel Alex Hart, said that they are going to organize the election in 104 polling units in Yenegua. Now, this is the background of why this is happening. In in the House of Representatives seat, that is the Federal Kolokuma Yenagua Kolokuma Pukuma Federal Constituency seat, the ballot papers were missing. About 50,000 ballot papers were expected. Only 1,500 ballot papers were available. 48,500 ballot papers were missing. So the people insisted that no, without that, those ballot papers being produced, elections will not go on. And because of the atmosphere, INEC had to withdraw its ad hoc staff detail to conduct the election. And then much later, some other persons stormed the INEC office and insisted that they must find a way to make sure they cast their ballots. So INEC, after all the back and forth, decided that elections will be holding in these 4 wards and about 104 polling units across Yenagua local government council. So we're getting ready for that election this morning
Okay,
from 10
Alambo.
a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay,
Yes.
Alan, before I let you go, can you tell us about the level of awareness of the people concerning today's exercise?
I must say many people may not be that aware because that statement came late last night. Yes, they were told, for example, the protesters that went to the INEC office headquarters were assured that they will be given the opportunity to vote. But they were asking when. The response then was like maybe later that yesterday, that Saturday. But late in the night, they released the statement that it will be this morning. I must say that the awareness not that because I had to take time to go to some of the polling units to see if they've really set up materials. From my standpoint, nothing on ground except maybe they are in the rack centers and trying to see how they can distribute the materials. But we will just have to keep watching and know how it goes. But the level of awareness, I must say, is not that much. But what I must say is that the people are ready, they're enthusiastic to vote. And you could see their response yesterday. They insisted that they must never be denied the opportunity to cast their votes. And this is what is happening.
Thank you very much, Alan. We'll keep us posted as events unfold in Bayelsa State. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Thank you.
I have another of our correspondents on the line right now. Good morning. Okay. You listen to Thugly and all of that. Then again, another thing I want you to speak on is voter education in our electoral system. Whose responsibility? INEC, political parties, or is it a shared responsibility?
Okay. I love the questions. The first is thuggery and ballot snatching. I have commended the security agencies for what they've done so far. But ballot snatching, to my dismay, still happened. The ballot papers were wasted and put in the gutters, destroyed, and people painstakingly cast their ballot, left their houses. It's sad. Where were the security agencies at that time? Maybe there should be special training for security agencies, especially the police, or maybe let's leave the police alone. Let me see if you do this. On being at strategic points at polling units to forestall the snatching of ballot boxes. I think there should be special training for that because you cannot be as smart as the person who wants to rob you. If it's a 4-year-old child that's going to rob a 47-year-old man, he is smarter because he's watching every move. Therefore, I believe there should be some specialized training in that area. Thuggery still happens. People were intimidated at the center, the polling units, that this place is for so party. Don't come here. If you're not voting for that, we are looking at what should happen. So, I don't know. We've done very well this time. These are lapses that should be noted going forward. Then, the terrain of places like Bayelsa. I mentioned earlier project management. A large chunk of project management should take cognizance of difficult terrains, and special recognition should be given to states like Bayelsa and riverine areas that are difficult to access. Project management there should be a special chunk of that. Training of personnel on what to do. The training of their personnel on what to do in those places. Then, thirdly, INEC should cross-check material going out. I know it's a tremendous responsibility. The question of ballot papers not being enough, I've not verified this. I hear that some ballot papers did not have a particular political party on it. It's not verified. It may be false. It may be fake news. So I don't know.
It's not.
It's not. It's not true.
It's established.
It's established.
Yes.
Okay. If it's established, then that is not good enough. Going forward, we should have. Lastly, voter education. That's my forte, and I love it. INEC has a responsibility. There's a section, there's a department of voter education. Civil society has a responsibility to educate the masses on voting. You cannot do it enough. Even the so-called elites don't know how to package their ballot papers after. It's still blocks. So voter education should be continued. People are thinking of so many things. Food to eat, salary, car is bad. So you may forget. And the thing will blot and it will be invalid. So voter education should involve even the security agencies. I'm not giving them that job. It's not their fault. But let me mention INEC, NGOs.
What about the
CNOs.
National Orientation Agency?
National Orientation Agency is saddled with everything. They are the ones to, when children don't behave well, they say, what is Noah doing? When this does not happen, they say, I sympathize with Noah. They have so much on their hands. I think they should have that responsibility too. But I think there are civil society organizations that are working on voter education particularly. There should be a coalition of such similar CSOs and NGOs.
The political parties.
I was coming there, but thank you for. The political parties have a great responsibility. INEC, the political parties, in that order, in civil society, or maybe it's political parties first, or political parties and INEC pari passu on voter education, and it should be continuous. It's not something that is a one-off. Between the 4 years, voter education is something that should be taken up, but political parties take it up last minute. How to vote. You now start distributing the papers like 4 days or 1 week to the election. It's not good enough. It should be for the totality of the 4 years. When one election finishes, the cycle begins immediately. We should learn that for project management, for better success in subsequent elections. Thank you.
Dr. Abdullahi.
Let me start with the first issue of thuggery and violence. Based on the improvements and the preparedness towards the election, that's the 2023 election, I am of the opinion that we know that the policies taken and some of the plannings really retired many of the merchants of violence and thuggery. Also, the merchandise of voter, votes buyers or votes buying has also been significantly reduced. Now, in psychology, when people are addicted to a particular attitude, and all of a sudden they receive shot of preemption, there's definitely going to be certain accidental discharge. There will be chain reaction of, that change, a whole lot of an attitude adopted over the years. For a long period of time, from the beginning of our independence to 2015, and into 2019, our elections in Nigeria are characterized with this series of violence and thuggery. And even the politicians are so addicted into it. And this is because of the fact that political parties are not more than beauty pageant, or what I can call, association of armies that are dedicated to win elections. Only that there is serious absence or that diminished political ideology on the parts of the political parties. And of course, politicians have taken the political parties like their coats and jackets. They change them the way they want. And of course, you see politicians junketing from one political party to another, leading to the emergence of the third force. Ordinarily, there shouldn't have been any thought about a third force. In the United States, we have seen the consolidation of that ideology. In South Africa, we can see the ANC. You can see the ideology over the years. This is a party built on democracy. The content and ideology of ANC is talking about anti-apartheidness. It's talking about the survival of the people of South Africa or the Africans. It's talking about, rapprochement with friends who come from other parts of the world and other parts of Africa. It's talking about civil, engagement. It's talking about non-violence approach to democracy, etc. But in Nigeria, these militaristic tendencies and the long time of military governance in Nigeria also affected the psyche of people. And of course, every Nigerian is a potential army of a political party. And of course, there is no other strategy of winning election rather than appealing to this tribal and ethno-religious sentiments, including regional disparities to win elections, appealing to certain baseless, ingredients that are inconsequential to the whole process. But politicians are addicted to all this. Addiction to money politics. Nobody thinks of how you get the money. The only shortcut for you to get to power, the ladder for you to get to power, is to get to pile money or stockpile money, which is the most strategic, potent weapons of electoral battle in Nigeria. So over the years, these political parties have failed to have robust ideology. And today you can see, even with the new, what I call the rise of labor, which has given a footprint, which has significantly sent a signal. But it is not yet uhuru for Nigerians, because there are colorations of ethnic dominance and intimidation by certain supporters who are, to a large extent, misguided. But I know with time, with consolidation, people will come to know that perhaps most of these people meant well for Nigerians. The only thing is that sensitization is not as sufficient as it should. And people are now wearing these ethnic and tribal coats and religious garments in order to advance the cause of their political parties. So I am of the opinion that if we begin to dilute technology in our electoral processes, it will go a long way. Because what I have seen yesterday in some areas is that the consciousness, particularly also, we have to commend the performances of the media, because we're not talking about the media people. We have to commend them significantly, because what they have done and what they have shown yesterday, just like the security people planned, the media had a robust, synergetic, contingent arrangement to give a patriotic coverage to this election. And of course, certain people were deterred by their presence, just like in the past when we have, some of these potato arrangements around media intervention in governing, in election monitoring, where they say, oh, we don't need people to have cameras there to monitor what is going on. No. But when people knew they are in camera, when people see the presence of the press and the media people, they tend to exercise some natural restraints. And of course, it will add to the credibility of the process. And additionally, if with the introduction of Vivas and acknowledgement of technology, just like the case of the Vivas, I saw the INEC chairman talking about one of the component technology of the Vivas machine, which has to some extent provided solution to the lateness in the commencement of election. Because the Vivas has a timer. And of course, those that have started by 8 o'clock perhaps to stop by 2 or 4. The Vivas has an automated program according to the INEC chairman, which starts the timing for the operations of the beavers commence with the use. If you, for those who start by 8, will stop by 2. Those who start by 10 will stop at 4. The beavers itself will not stop working until it works for the hours it is programmed to work
for.
So there is solution. Because of the huge geographical terrain difficulties we have in Nigeria, riverine communities, creeks, mountainous region, very difficult to assess. And based on the arrangement sensitive materials, as I always say, INEC will have to take time and take highly strategic logistics. There are places where you need helicopters. People, forget that recently we experienced a lot of flooding in some communities. In Kebbi State, there are communities you need boats. To get to, you need helicopters to deliver certain logistics, and you have to pay for them. And INEC is crying. Even INEC has been to some extent affected by the cashless policy, except because of the special provisions which CBN said and promised will make it available. But as at the last hour, though the logistics were provided, arrangement with transporters and what have you had certain hitches. And of course, if you look, for example, in Kano, there were even protests by the electoral workers who said they promised them certain logistics of 4,000 or what have you, but we are not paid, and they had to commence the election. And they said, no, pay, and then we start. And I was not really happy, and many people were not happy, because apart from whatever logistics you will be given, there are the patriotic sides of this whole arrangement, or whole process. Election is not a business venture. It is a national duty that you have no right even to resist when you are commissioned to do. It's like getting to the army when Nigeria is under attack. You must have to go. So that is also a very strategic.
We're going to take a report now, still talking about thuggery and ballot box snatching and all of that, and the concerns of residents of Lafia in Nasarawa State, and that will be by Chris Yamus. But when we come back, I'm going to ask you, because a lot of some political analysts have suggested that because of the large population of the country, is it possible for us to spread our general election over a period of time, instead of having everything, on a particular day, because of the large? I will take your opinions on that when we come back from this report. Chris Yamutu is ready now for. Yes, you. Yeah, you. I'll come back to you. It's the two of you. When I said you, I mean the two of you. So, Chris Yamutu, please, let's have you.
There have been reported cases of invasion to packets of attacks by armed thugs at polling units during elections, where voting materials were snatched with voters forcefully dispersed. Over the years, voters in some polling units in Nasarawa State have experienced cases of ballot snatching, violent attacks, and destruction of some printed ballot papers during elections. In an interview with Radio Nigeria, a voter at Ungwarmangu polling unit of Lafia Metropolis, Mr. John Knoxin, called on the Independent National Electoral Commission to deploy adequate security personnel to polling units identified to be prone to attacks during elections to boost the confidence of electorate.
Our expectation here is based on the way we have been casting our votes. We are expecting that the election here is also going to be free and fair without interference by any hoodlum or any talk.
Another voter at Police Barracks Road polling unit in Lafia local government area, Mrs. Halima Ali, stressed the need for strong and efficient tribunals for the prosecution of electoral offenders to check thuggery during the elections. She noted that despite cancellation of results from their polling unit in previous elections due to destruction of polling materials by political thugs, she had mobilized women to come out to vote.
The last election that we voted here, it was really terrible, especially the one of the governor. After the voting, during the counting time, some thugs now come in. They off the lights, started using machete and stick, seeing the electoral materials run for our dear life. This time around, we want the government to put law enforcement here. Let them be here until that evening time during the counting.
However, a gang leader of a group of thugs, Rambo Nakande, said due to the high level of commitment shown by President Muhammadu Buhari and INEC in entrenching sanity to the nation's electoral process, they have repented from thuggery to ensure peaceful conduct of the elections.
I actually learned my lesson from the previous election. I'm not going to listen to any politician to use me as a talk. At this election, I'm going to be a gentle and a very clear voter, no fighting and no any raising of voice. Everybody will vote according to the constitution of the INEC.
While Gambo Shafa alias Sharp Striker regretted that they had gained nothing from thuggery as their sponsors, whom according to him, most times offered them paltry amount of money, Indian hemp and other hard drugs to energize them to perpetrate the act during elections, hence they had changed their ways for the better.
They use us after the election, they pumping us. They don't do anything for us. We are calling the attention of the politician to allow the election to be free and fair.
feminization of poverty. By that I mean that the majority of the populace, of which women are about half, are extremely poor. That is why they don't come up in politics. They are the mothers that stay at home with these children. And many of the men are polygamous. So you take care of your own children. What do you take care of them with? A poor boss? They are pushed out because they need to feed. So we're looking at issues of governance that will address the issue of poverty. Make government cannot employ everybody, but have a tariff that is friendly towards a microcredit for women and even men. Have a tariff where socialization into the process, into the society is wholesome. And it cannot be wholesome if the stomach is empty. So the baseline is poverty, hunger, disease, and good governance. Do a lot to remedy most of these. Hungry would be lower if we have better governance.
On the question I asked earlier before we took that report, if we could, spread our elections.
This has been tinkered with many times. And the feeling is that if you finish election one day and you spread it to the next day, then the tempo usually goes down.
No.
But it's something we can explore because of our population, which by 2050 we are looking at something explosive. So we may not be able to cope in one day, but it's something that should be logistically, scientifically, technically, surreptitiously galvanized to ensure that we don't make mistakes. If we can have logistics that can take care of the population in one day, is the best option. But if it is very difficult, near impossible, then the logistics needs to be galvanized in a coordinated and synergistic manner to ensure that it does not fail. Because the more you spread an election, the probability of extraneous things entering the process is more.
Maybe voter apathy.
Apart from voter apathy, even if the voters are ready, the possibility of extraneous negative things like vote buying and co could set in more than if you had it one day. I'm not ruling it out, but if you have to do it, it has to be synergistically coordinated for us to have issues.
Okay, Dr. Abdullahi.
Thank you. I think I share the same opinion, but I also have some rudimentaries to add to what she has really pointed out, that it has to be solved strategically, scientifically, and also surreptitiously. But then, to be more empirical, I believe that the conduct of elections on the issues of technical convenience on the part of the election umpire, certain things, yes, I share the opinion that yes, election can be spread over days, or as the case may be, because of the population, of course, because the Nigerian population is growing. There were researches I've looked into by maybe 2030 or thereabout. Nigeria will be the third largest populated country in the world, even ahead of the United States. And then, if that is the case, as at the current, we have close to about 90 million registered voters, and we have a lot of people who are still caged or quarantined by the political apathy of sitting on the fence and even undecided to vote, etc. But I think certain development as we move, the excruciating impact of poverty and underdevelopment, or the progresses that will be made in the future, will definitely galvanize or trigger, other voters who have decided not to vote or decided not to partake, because there are people who have developed that political allergy not to participate. What will motivate them to participate are two things. Either the rate at which politicians and leaders destroy this country, or the propensity of excruciating and exacerbating pains that are resulting from the, underdevelopment and backwardness, unemployment, illiteracy, etc., will make them to vote. But I think more, when they see that politicians have decided to be more patriotic and then their performances are yielding positive results on the horizon, it will definitely motivate them to come out and vote in mass. But for the ease of the duty and for the ease of their convenience, INEC should be able to look into developing other strategic conveniences to do the election hitch-free, which will solve part of the problem. If you look at it today, we don't have the sufficient manpower in terms of security to be able to man. We have two things to do during an election: to man the ungoverned spaces. We have about 1,400 porous borders. We need people there. And we have close to 1 million polling units. How many are they when we share? So there is room for a lot of improvements. And then that means from the investigation yesterday, there are certain polling units in highly dangerous locations and difficult geographical terrains where there are no physical presence of security agents. What they do in part of the strategy is to man the flashpoint where we expect violence. There are areas where we never, in history, they had no antecedents of violence and talking. Then we concentrate more on those areas that have notoriety in this context. And of course, but the situation can change with the emergence of certain forces on the political scene. And therefore, we need their presence everywhere. Then subsequently, INEC need to have their situation room where they monitor elections virtually, meaning to have strategic eagle camera, CCTV, at all polling units, since we have the ability to purchase BVAS machine to all polling units. What makes us not to purchase strategic CCTV cameras in each polling unit to show us who and who, because it will send deterrence to those people. We can get them. So next time we should be thinking of getting cameras so that everything will be displayed on a board in the situation room. We monitor it on television. And anywhere we see all this, ample enough to provide evidence for cancellation, for suspension, or for what have you. It shouldn't be just through verbal evidence or audio, whatever. Let's see it, because today the world has been predisposed to believing what it sees more, because the first empirical thermometer for measuring or gauging the scientificity of a phenomenon is seeing, which has to do with the virtual cameras or with the CCTV to monitor all the polling units. We must update ourselves into that. Secondly, we must also strategically fix elections in states based on alphabetic order, because Nigeria has certain sensitivities of its fault lines. We can't say, oh, the southern election is today, the northern election is tomorrow. No. Put the state on alphabetical order. The A and B states, or we start it from the ground, the ZW and Y states should start. We conduct election with a peculiar information or ballot papers or whatever. While other elections, other states on that alphabetic order or whatever code given to them, which will superimpose itself upon the visible growing sentiments that we have. We shouldn't allow sentiment to take over so that we move into one day saying, oh, the Christian will vote today, tomorrow the Muslim will vote, and the pagans. This will also, INEC should look into that possibility. Thirdly, INEC should be able to look at the classifications of electoral material. We commend the effort of having different ballot papers for House of Reps, House of Representatives, and the presidential. That's good. But beyond that, you should also consolidate and look up to strategic consolidation of the classifications, which in any way could, create a kind of a deterrent measure where a ballot paper cannot be snatched in one polling unit or one community and to work in another community, just as we saw yesterday in one of the satellite towns in the FCT in Zuba. The soldiers need to intervene somewhere in Zuba to climb roof of houses to be able to chase people who took away the ballot boxes and the papers. And of course, by the time you have some of these strategic inscriptions, I'm not saying print ballot papers like money, but people really complain of the quality. These are things some people said can be produced in Oluwale or produced in Area 10. It should have a peculiar security characteristics that differentiates it from what could be used in other places. So every unit, we have that capability. There are software that could give categorization according to polling units. Ballot paper is invalid when moved from where it is supposed to be used because of those security features. I've seen it in United States, I've seen it in India, I've seen it in other places. In fact, in India, because India is the largest democracy in the world, with close to 1 billion people. If India will conduct election in a day or two, why not Nigeria, which is not even up to 20 or 30% of India? Now, finally, the issue of developing, also INEC should be looking at developing the e-voting system or the emailing voting system where those citizens that are educated, democracy has this danger of giving both educated and non-educated equal right of participation. No matter how educated you are entitled to single vote. Yes. No matter how uneducated a particular individual is entitled to equal vote. Both of you decide who governs you. The possibility of those who are in the majority, perhaps the non-educated, will end up providing vegetables and potato leadership for you. The educated ones, and you will suffer the consequences, just as Socrates will warn the people of Greek and the Europeans, that for the wise who refuses to rule will suffer the administration of idiots. And of course, therefore, how then do we and the political philosopher kings are the educated? And of course, here, democracy makes provisions for all. And therefore, you can see there is a dynamic struggle between the educated and the non-educated to be able to see and guide the system in such a way that leaders that deserve to govern this republic
gets to power,
not misfits getting into the corridors of power simply because they've been smuggled in by certain people who are not conscious of the system.
Still looking at the way forward, from this issue of thuggery, ballot box snatching, and other forms of electoral malpractice. I would like to have your views on the crucial issue of impunity. Because where there is no deterrence, so to speak, there is people of offenders have the courage to continue to commit crime and all of that. Lack of arrest, logical and conclusive prosecution, as well as punishment for electoral offenders has been the bane of political development, in this country. I would like to know what kind of synergy would you like to see between INEC and probably the Ministry of Justice, the judiciary generally? Let me start from Dr. Kusa.
Even when it is said that something happened, that's the end of it. You don't hear anything anymore. But with the reformed electoral act, the provisions about violence, the punishment for certain crimes, and I'm hoping that with EFCC because there are punishment for good lying, all that. There is punishment for election malpractice. There is punishment for forgery and bringing arms to the scene of polling units. So, it has been said that there should be an electoral offences tribunal. But we have been spread so thin on different tribunals. Should we have another tribunal for electoral offences where some of these have been taken cognizance of in the electoral act? Because money will be spread thin. But election is very important. Democracy has many elements. But election, the electoral process is so acrimonious because it's the process of selecting the person to sit there. Therefore, it is seen as a deep or die affair. Some are saying that because of the importance of the electoral process and elections, we need to have an electoral offensive tribunal. The other school of thought is that we don't need it. It's covered in the electoral act and it can be taken to the normal courts. Whatever it is, whatever we decide to take of the two ends, culprits must be brought to justice and be seen to be brought to justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. It should be done fast. Before even the people who have been elected come to office, there should be speedy judgment on their cases so that people know that these people have done something wrong. Others who are planning to do the same thing would caution themselves. So regular courts, they must be brought to justice. That's my position.
Thank you. Dr. Abdullahi.
Yeah, in line with what my colleague said, I would like to start by the fact that part of the problem is the robbery and violence during elections have to do with the diminishing or absence of political will from the side of the leadership. When I say leadership at all levels, and specifically it has to do with the presidency. Looking at the antecedents, or do I say looking at what President Muhammadu Buhari has done, and whatever he has done is equally informed by the precedent which brought him into power. In other words, what President Jonathan did, the way and manner in which he succumbed to the visible defeats that took place in 2015, and by implication, has also imposed a serious burden upon the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari to also do, if not same, they have to do something significantly great beyond what or the sacrifices Jonathan has done. So, of course, we can see that the body language and actions of President Muhammadu Buhari in the last couple of months really signified this direction in terms of what can I ask himself, what can I do, or what do we do to be able to improve the integrity of our elections and the electoral process. So that depends on the political will. The political will still is not sufficient enough to send the right signal to those who ferment trouble. But I commended his effort in 2019 and also in today's 2023, where orders, marching orders are given to the security forces. And I commended the leadership of the security forces by giving these people a civil security approach to electoral security, which, as I said, what we saw in Bielsa and in some areas of Kano and Lagos, where both the people and the security forces, including the military, surprisingly the military for the first time has been happy, has been exercising restraint and also engaging the citizens. This is to tell you that there is high propensity of consolidation of our democratic governance in this country. So we appreciate the process. So that's number one. Number two, she made mention of the tribunal, no tribunal. In the West recommendation during the Arab War, there was this provision of setting up of not only the electoral tribunal, it's a special electoral offenses court, which would only be saddled with that responsibility. Today, you will see that the Court of Appeal and what have you will be setting courts, tribunal for governorship election and what have you election. But who is there whenever you submit cases that have to do with electoral violence, which, thwarted the integrity of the process? There has never been any visible, instances of robust punishments or, judgment that has mated sufficient, what I can say, punishment to offenders, but rather heavyweights or politicians come into play and influence some of these.
Because most of them, we only hear of arrests, we don't get to know what happens in prosecution.
But later you will see the same people will be back to the community. I have seen a case where somebody, because of electoral violence and thuggery, killed someone in a community. After some time, he has been arrested. After some time, the person was released back to the community. And of course, this has sent the wrong signal to the people and has added to the content of apathy and disenchantment of citizens in terms of the, their allergic tendencies not to vote. And this is not helping the democratic process. I am of the opinion, and I joined the crusade that, like the EFCC, people are now propagating that the EFCC and ICPC should have a special tribunal or special court to try corruption cases. Because some of the courts we have today, they are just in and out courts. And of course, it's not giving us the required deterrence we need. If you jail people and you sentence people to commensurate punishment to their offenses, it will send signal to others and people will confess and people will be deterred from performing that merchandise of violence. So INEC is not having its electoral offenses courts. Two, another recommendation is to have what they call EEC, EOC, Electoral Offenses Commission in Nigeria, to document some of these things. During election, you see their task force or you see their personnel documenting, and they also have an intelligence ambit in synergy with the security agencies, gathering evidence about those who participated or those offenders in election matters. And of course, we'll take it up to the tribunal, jail them or give them appropriate punishment commensurate to offenses. And finally, just as I advocated, the issue of technology. If we can put technology, I am just giving, example with India, because India is also a third world that has elevated itself to certain positions. So Nigeria, it has some similarities with India. And of course, we can borrow from what India does. India is super in technology, we know. And they monitor some of these polling units, documents electoral thuggery and violence merchants, and at the end of the day, try to, penalize them. One of the observable shortcomings of the Indian system is that the money backs in India. Some of the billionaires who influence the process are not being properly checkmated. And of course, there is a loophole. But if Nigeria would have, just as I advocated, that we should have every ballot, every polling unit should have a certain number of security forces and should have what we call the BVACs with backups, and also should have a camera that is monitoring the process, including the fact that ballot papers in bulk and the ballot boxes are supposed to have certain technology representation in terms of trackers.
Okay.
In India and the other countries I've seen, I don't want to mention too much. There are trackers
Okay,
on the buses.
like,
If you take it, you will be caught.
Okay.
Yes.
I need to speak to one of our correspondents now. I think I have Raphael Ekwe is from Rivers. Good morning, Raphael.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, give us an update on the situation in Rivers concerning the elections today.
Okay, I've gone around some polling units. No voting going out at all. Nobody's in the polling units. But a particular place I went to in Oluyemi, over there, the INEC ad hoc staff, they abandoned their materials at the polling units. Both the completed papers, the boxes, all the material, even the beavers carrier was dumped, but that was not there. Those were just abandoned there since yesterday.
Okay, what is the turnout like?
People are not even, people are just walking around. There's no serious turnout right now. Though as of yesterday, people waited in line to vote, but that machine was not functioning properly. So the people some of them went back again. But this morning, the turnout is not high at all. People are just on the streets.
Are INEC officials already at the polling units?
The ones that visited, there is nobody there.
Okay, give us a picture of the security arrangements for today's elections.
The ones I visited, nobody on the polling unit. There's nobody there. About like 6 polling units in this ward. There's nobody there.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that for now. But keep us posted. Let's know what happens in the course of the elections. Thank you, Raphael. I will leave you for now. We expect to hear from you on the program later. Of course, I can see Dr. Kusa. All right, INEC officials not around, voters not there, and
Yesterday,
was phenomenal.
No, a woman went to the mat on Friday night. She was standing on social media, took her mat, slept there. A woman, elderly woman, took her mat, slept there. That kind of enthusiasm. No voters. It's even worse. Yesterday, voters were there. No INEC officials. Today, no INEC officials, no voters. So, about spreading the elections. They're saying something about it. I won't say more.
All right, because we need to take a break. But before then, I would like to have your own reaction.
Yeah, just as she said also, I think based on improvement and what we have seen, in spite of the one of the diminishing vocabulary in the dictionary of INEC, what we call the inconclusivity. We have not seen inconclusivity, but we are gravitating systematically towards inconclusivity of the electoral process. But I think the apathy happens to be the major thing, motivated by really the hitches in the, would I say here, the security arrangements, and the failure of the political parties to exercise their constitutional mandated, rules upon punishing offenders of the process in terms of the arrangement made by parties, for example. The governor in the state has not been helping matters and not apportioning blame. His political party or the political parties were not helping matters. So Rivers happens to be one of a critical, a critical specimen that INEC needs to also use in developing.
Right. I'll give the two of you a few seconds each.
Yes.
To respond to this question. What would you be telling INEC and political parties now to do concerning this situation? So we have voters out there to vote, and of course security.
Please, let me jump.
You're always jumping.
For the sake of the
INEC should all the places not mapped immediately. They are hearing us now. They know where the problems are. Please send your personnel out
immediately. Okay, Dr. Abdullahi.
Also, the security people should also have to be on ground and give the people the required confidence to be able to vote because the apathy and allergy developed by the people and what we have seen this morning is because of the deteriorating security situation in the state, which the parties, the governor, and also the fault on the security aspects. And this needs to be taken care of.
You're still listening to Mandy Studio on Africa's largest radio network, Radio Nigeria. We'll take a break now. We'll be back shortly. To stay tuned.
African people, do you do? African children, I'm selling to you. We all should try to live together.
not to kill and eat one another. We are from one father and mother, so that means we are brothers and sisters. In your home, give peace a chance. On your ways, give peace a chance. Whatever you do, love is the way. Wherever you are, love is the way. Whatever you say, love is the way. Whoever you are, love is the way. African leaders, what do you do? African chiefs, I'm selling to you. Losing the chains that are binding your hands. This is the time for us to find the land. Settle the grudges that are causing destruction. But this is the time to make a solid construction. In your home, give peace a chance. On your ways, give peace a chance. Whatever you do, allow peace to reign. Wherever you are, allow peace to reign. Whatever you say, allow peace to reign. Whoever you are, allow peace to reign. Hello, Papa, how do you do? Hello, Mama, I'm saluting you. Keep your children from greed and hate, for they will be everywhere in your day. If they are bad, then you will be blamed. If they are good, glory will be to your name. In your home, give peace a chance. On your ways, give peace a chance. Whatever you teach, allow peace to reign. Whatever you learn, allow peace to reign. Whatever we see, allow peace to reign. However you go, allow peace to reign. African people, how do you do? African children, I'm saluting you. We all should try to live together, not to kill and eat one another. We are from one father and mother, so that means we are brothers and sisters. In your home, give peace a chance. On your ways, give peace a chance. Whatever you do, allow peace to reign. Wherever you are, allow peace to reign. Whatever you say, allow peace to reign. Whoever you are, allow peace to reign. whatever you teach, allow peace to reign. Whatever we learn, allow peace to reign.
Testing, testing, testing. Hello, guys. It's good. He wants you to speak, Abby.
Hello? Can you hear me?
What about you?
Can you hear?
Hello? Hello?
Hey.
Testing, testing. Am I okay? Yeah. This mic, is it okay?
Is that?
Number of mic. What's the number?
It's not the bill. This is 3 and 1. This is 3 and 1. You went back up. So you will run across. This is 2.
Okay, that will be 4.
Yeah. Testing, testing. Fantastic.
It's back, right? It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
I'm okay. Yeah, testing, testing.
Hello? Can you hear me? Testing, testing.
Testing, testing, testing.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Let
It could snowball into something. I don't want this.
Hi. You're most welcome back to the network service of Radio Nigeria, Africa's largest radio network. And this is the second leg of Mandy's studio on this day, Sunday, the 26th of February, 2023. And of course, I still have my guests in the studio. I have Dr. Abdullahi Bello and Dr. Oluyemi Kusa in the studio. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. We understand that there is a protest going on right now at Lugbe area of Abuja. And of course, our correspondent, Muja Kucha, is right there to give us an update on what is going on. Hello, Muja, can you hear me? Muja, are you here? Are you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, what exactly is going on at Lugbe? Can you hear me, Muja?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Yes, yeah, good morning. What is going on? Why are they protesting? We understand there is a protest right now at Lugbe.
Yes, to primary to polling unit 009. Now, the voters were gathered here since yesterday, but some of them are complaining that they were registered without being given ballot papers. Now, some even got the accreditation, but then, and there are some got marked with the matter to say that they have voted, but they have not voted. Now, they said there was someone who was here, some printing on ballot papers, and some at that he gathered here, hoping that the INEC officials will be here to conduct the election for them. Now, they have been, they are protesting now, saying that they must vote, and they are calling on INEC to quickly come with materials where they can vote. Some of them have even been saying that if INEC refuses to show up here, they'll be coming to INEC office. Now, I have some of the protesters here that are willing to speak to.
Okay, let's have them.
Hello.
Hello, Muja, we're waiting for you.
Hello?
You said you have one of them to speak to us.
Yes, I have one of the protesters here. Can you narrate your story?
Yes, yesterday we are over 8,000 people in Police 009, Lugbe 2. They accredited us here yesterday, and they didn't give us ballot paper to vote. From morning, some of us were here by 5 a.m. in the morning till 5 in the evening. No one person voted here. But we discovered that they accredited us, some copies were inside, some printing on ballot paper. And everybody, what person women, 6 people register, everybody came out in mass to vote. Over 8,000 people. No one single person voted from 5 a.m. in the morning till 5 p.m. in the evening. No single person.
Okay, that's one of the protesters narrating our experience yesterday.
All right, Muja, do we have INEC officials there? And what about the security agents? Are they there to check this process so it does not escalate?
At the moment, there's no INEC officials here. It's only the press that is here. No INEC official, no security agent at all.
Okay, please keep safe. Muja, we'll get back to you. Just keep us posted as events unfold there. But keep safe, please. Thank you. All right, you heard it.
This is sad. Very sad. No INEC officials, no security agents, and it's alleged, I did not see, that there is thumb printing going on in a room inside there. Probably it's a school. They are doing thumb printing and the people can view it. It is very sad. It's the first report I'm hearing like this during this election. There might be more, but this is the first one I'm hearing. No INEC officials, no security agents. Did they mention coppers? They said
there's some coppers inside.
Yes, and they are likely to be those on temporary
ad hoc staff
of INEC, and people can view them. Thumb printing. Something needs to be done. Security agents need to be, first of all, security agents before INEC officials need to be matched, not dispatched, matched to that venue. As quick, this is the federal capital. As quickly as possible, then the INEC can follow. But the security has to be there. And then all those who have been thumb printing, the crowd should not allow them to move. They should be handed over to the security agencies once they arrive. That's my tip.
Okay. I think for me, I take a different, view. There is for me, being a forensic expert in investigation, I know there is mixed up in that report. The response of one of the protesters. Also, there are certain, incongruence in it because we have to be also fair to INEC. And I also call on the political parties because I have also observed the election in some areas across the city. You see, one of the protesters was responding to the fact that they were up to 8,000. 8,000. In a polling unit, you can have up to 8,000, not even 4,000. We are talking of 8,000. So probably something may have happened. There was reshufflement. INEC did some reshufflement. These people may have been victim of
delineation of polling units
delineation
and people
also
struggling.
non-sensitization, or the sensitization has not gotten there. For example, in Gwagwalada Area Council, we went to phase 1 in Gwagwalada Area Council. There is a mixture. The reshufflement or the INEC officials went there. For the past 5 years, people have been voting at Junior Hajj Camp, which is a very large, concentration of voters, area. But this time around, people came to vote at the Junior Hajj Camp, but INEC officials and the security forces went back to the senior Hajj Camp. There's junior, there's senior. And the polling unit now, I don't know what is the arrangement, but was shifted over there. But what the political parties did was to keep some of their agents in the old polling unit to sensitize people who come en masse to vote. And I believe in that polling unit, there were about 560 something people. So for somebody to say there are more than 5 to 7,000 or almost 8,000 people in the place, there's definitely going to be a mixed up somewhere. And then INEC, if they listen to us, the political parties, if they listen to us, should move to Lugbe 009 polling unit to be able to sensitize people or tell them whether that particular previous polling unit that was there has been shifted to another location so that these Nigerians who are complaining or disenfranchised will be there. Another issue observable within this election across the country were the issue of some people who registered but did not collect their voters' card and also went there and struggled, fight to be allowed to vote in the absence of having physical PVC. Even though in one of the states we observed prior to the election that hunters found some, littered or some disbanded voters' cards. I don't know whether the police has concluded investigation in terms of who are these people on the voters' card. The political parties, have they followed up the case to be able to be sure that the voters' cards are either reprinted or distributed to the right people? Then the issue of dead persons also. Some people have definitely died because lifespan here is not as robust as it should, and therefore some people missed out. And of course, there are so many uncollected PVCs.
It's about 6.2 million.
Yeah, so these are, technical problems, if I may put it this way, because we are still alleging. And the issue of, say, some people were accredited, but were not allowed to vote, has dispelled the position that INEC people were not there. Then who came? Was it the accreditation was done by angels or spirits?
Okay.
No. So we need to look at this situation very critically. The political parties should go there in order to ascertain. INEC should also go there to ascertain and put it clear to the citizens what to avoid post-electoral.
I'm sure our correspondent will get back to us on all of that. Dr.
Yes,
Kusa.
Lugbe polling unit
9, yeah.
09.
3 things should happen immediately. The first, INEC should be there. Security agencies first to keep the peace, INEC and political parties. The 3, if they were there, they would have been able to sort out who are those to be here, because it's very common, even in Abuja, many had to walk to a different polling unit. A friend of mine was using her Jeep yesterday to pick people from where she voted to where they should, where she voted, because the original place was where all of them were. They didn't even know they'd been changed. That's a civic duty for a patriotic Nigerian. She was using her field. About 20 times she moved in a Jeep with all those people, and she took them there, and there was peace. If INEC was there, security agencies had been there, and political parties were there, then the issue of whether they are telling the truth or they are not telling the truth would not be so serious. INEC would have been able to advise them, the polling booth has shifted for this number of people, or in this place, in this polling unit, only this number are allowed to vote here. I think the absence of these three categories of persons is the major issue, and they should be there ASAP.
I want to chip in that INEC will not be there. INEC will be at the appropriate place approved. The security people are the ones that should be there, and the political parties, if they are in tandem with us, hearing us on air. Go there, look at the situation, get the complaint, and be able to direct people to do what they are supposed to do. It's their civic responsibility. Nobody is perhaps attempting to disenfranchise them. But I want to believe that what has happened could be similar to what has happened in other places we have observed. The delineation and change of place of voting or polling units. And I'm sure, because that very polling unit 009, I know it. And there's a high concentration of not too conscious citizens. Let me put it this way. I don't want to say illiteracy. It's more derogatory. But let me say high concentration of not too conscious citizens. And of course, the total absence of INEC or whosoever there, is speaking louder than, what we're supposed to hear. So the right thing to be done is that political parties and their agents should be there to guide people appropriately and redirect them to where appropriately they should go and vote. But the large number of people there, up to 8,000, I don't think there's a problem. Some people could have there are different kinds of problems you will observe there. Some people don't even have the PPC, or some people just registered and have not collected the PPC and are there to say they want to vote in their 8,000. How possible it is in a polling unit
Then there was fake news.
That massive?
There was fake
we're
news.
getting there.
There was fake news before the election that you could vote without your voter's card. And the chairman of INEC came out categorically the day before to say, look, no PVC, no voting. So don't be disillusioned by any fake news.
And still talking about fake news, since I think from midday yesterday, particularly on the social media, there have been all manner of results emanating from different parts of the country.
Yeah.
The issue of fake news is a big problem, in the evolution of our electoral system.
Yeah.
And some will say that it's very dangerous, a trend now, because virtually results have emanated from all the states, and INEC has not even on the iRev of INEC, you don't even have results.
Yeah.
But if you open your phone now, you see a lot of results from the north, south, everywhere. A lot of results, senatorial, House of Assembly, House of Representatives, and even the presidential results.
It's showing desperation of the citizens. And of course, the social media has provided a platform for armchair and accidental journalists who have really proliferated the space of the press. And of course, we have seen that several people have attributed illegally the status of INEC to themselves. And one of the potent destructive strategy of some of the political parties and some supporters is the manipulation of the psyche of the citizens through the instrumentality of fake news and what we call the emotional intelligence, engagements, where people they must have created this news a long time ago. This is what we are going to do. All these people are mischievous. But if they want to win, what we expected in the process is that people should genuinely and should be calm and follow the legal process, because there are established rules and instant regulations that monitor this process. Only INEC, anything that is not certified by INEC is illegal, it is not true, it is orchestrated to instigate violence and push citizens into the unpredictables. And the vision and mission of having that new Nigeria that we wanted will be truncated. And of course, when we kill Nigeria, we will only live in the shadow. And I want to say that no West African country, no Francophone country neighboring Nigeria, or no country in Africa has the capacity and capability to be able to house Nigerian refugees.
That is instructive.
And of course,
we cannot say it enough. Sorry.
Yeah.
We cannot say it enough that only INEC is authorized
to declare results.
So any result, apart from INEC result, should be disregarded.
Absolutely.
This is Radio Nigeria with a high sense of responsibility as a patriotic Nigerian. Please, electorate, any result not from INEC is not authentic. Yeah.
And as you have said, you cannot say it enough.
Yeah.
Any result that is not declared, by INEC is not authentic. Please, disregard those results, coming into your phones, your iPad and everything, results from across the country. INEC has not declared any results concerning yesterday's elections. So please, no results legally out yet.
And I want to chip in something. I also want to call on the political gladiators to be able to have the courage to exercise restraint so that we can have a credible, free and fair election. Judging from what has happened in the past, for example, in 2015, we have seen something happen. The then president called the supposed winner of the election, President Muhammadu Buhari, before INEC
declared results,
anchored on the precedence of law and on the provisions of the Electoral Acts. Before the declaration, the president had called on President Muhammadu Buhari to say, "Congratulations, you have won." When that same person was watching the movie of that result declaration on TV, INEC has not authorized it by law. So when President Muhammadu Buhari received the call, he was also shocked and amazed because of the tension. I knew that what motivated Jonathan was because of the tension and his predisposition not to stimulate violence, which his body language prior to the election in 2015 has shown clearly. But it was wrong to congratulate a winner based on mere perception. Even if you have the result, INEC must have to use the gavel of the law to be able to certify it valid for consumption to the public. But if you do, some people, based on that perception, because in security balance, perception is one of the greatest sources of threat to human lives and property. People could have contaminated perception about issues, and then it stimulates emotional reaction, which could be highly, highly destructive. And therefore, just as this saying goes that words are more sophisticated than bombs, missiles, and bullets, because the destructive implications of what people say, either on fake news platforms, in the media, and so on and so forth, could make us not only to lose that democracy. When we lose democracy, according to Jefferson, we will lose the Constitution. We will lose, beyond all, we will lose a country. And when you lose a country, you have lost everything. Nigerians should be able to know we have no alternative. There is no photocopy to this republic.
This is our
Nigeria
home.
is Nigeria. This is our home.
All right, Dr. Kusa.
We'll make it better.
All I would ask to you is the citizens to remain calm. Whoever wins this election, Nigeria remains Nigeria. Whoever wins the election, if your candidate loses, Nigeria remains. If your candidate wins, Nigeria remains. We want good governance. We want good schools for our children. We want health care. We want good roads. We want fairness. So if these things are given to us by whoever wins, it doesn't have to be your candidate, although it's difficult to pacify any politician that it doesn't have to be him. But that is the truth of the matter. Nigeria is more important than any political party or any politician or any citizen.
Dr. Kusa, another issue that is closely related to this declaration of results by non-authorized people is We saw yesterday some voters, a few voters, actually displayed their thumb printed ballots. And I know that Section 122, I don't know if I'm right now,